Hello, welcome everybody on this webcast live. This is Claudia here from a beautiful Dubai out of the corporate office of Utopian Global with the founder and CEO of Utopian Global on the call. And I'm going to look very much forward of today's discussion. We're going to have our topic around, of course, why gold, why now? We're going to touch on, government taxes, and we're going to touch on, of course, confiscation, because this is some of the questions when you diversify in precious metals, which come up very, very often. So I'm going to especially talk around the subject, or interview Bill, of course, on the subject today. But with no further delay, let me introduce you guys to our founder and CEO of Utopian Global, Bill Rowell. Bill, hello and welcome to the call.
Hi, Claudia. Great to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and welcome to everyone joining us from many parts of the world.
Most definitely, I believe we have a lot of people from different places in the world, and I know you are on a very beautiful place right now. Do you want to show us a little bit where actually you are?
Well, I could. I mean, actually, the office you're in has probably got the better view of the Burj Khalifa. I've got to unplug cables, Claudia. So you're sitting in the small boardroom there. Maybe, I mean, you can see Burj Khalifa there, I suppose, in downtown Dubai, but I think you actually probably have a better view from where you are.
Yes, a little bit too much sunlight where I am. So, of course, it's very much sunlight there, but I know this is one of the views, fountain view, which everybody so much loves down here. So I right away, of course, look down to the beautiful fountain. Yeah, you're going to show us.
Well, I have now, since you've requested me. There's a lot of sunlight coming through now, but well, I don't know whether you can see that. Can you?
Yes, sort of. Not so much, but we can.
And they're all Teslas down there. But anyway, this is downtown Dubai, and you can see Jumeirah Beach over the background there. Anyway,
let's show some beach. A lot of people, especially in Europe, where they have been locked down now since so long time, they are looking forward to see some sunshine and certainly some beach, I believe.
Well, that's the right in the background there. You probably can't see it here, but right in the background you can see the Bulgali Yacht Club and Hotel Resort in the very, very, very background on the island there. But this is right downtown, and you can see the different fountains in the background there. See the Burj Khalifa, absolutely amazing. An amazing building, I must say, nearly 900 meters tall. In fact, I was reading a report the other day, the average person's wage while building that was between $2.50 and $3 an hour. Doesn't that sound sounds like slave labor, doesn't it? But what an incredible feature they built here.
Most definitely. I mean, I'm astounded every day when I see those new buildings and those skyscrapers, but the quality of it built, I mean, I must say it is really amazing. But let's get into the subject, because this is really key. We're talking about gold and silver now, gosh, since so long time. People still have a struggle to understand it. Why should they hold it? Why should they not hold it? So there's lots of course, education behind gold and silver. And of course, I always say to people, you really have to look at yourself. What are you comfortable with? What is your savings? What is your asset holding? Every case is individual. Gold and silver doesn't provide a yield. Gold or silver is really a hedge and insurance policy against, of course, inflation, against, of course, this excessive money printing, which is happening right now. And it protects you from, of course, labor, which your time, you trade on a daily basis for a currency, no matter where you're in the world. Here in the UAE, obviously for dinar, in the US, you guys over for US dollar, the UK for Great British Pound. So that time, which nobody's ever going to give you back, you're trading that for a currency. Now, you wish that this currency actually obviously, maintains its purchasing power, but it does not. It loses over time value. So what you're really doing is you're selling yourself short. So meaning you actually continuously need to, basically work more and work harder just to buy the same goods and services. And so why gold? What plays gold really the role? The role is to protect there. Now, yet so many people don't actually own gold. In fact, here, Bill, of course, and because you're really connected here in this industry, obviously, Dubai is a hub for gold. So where can you see, before we go into the other subjects, where can you see the differences between, let's say, the Eastern or Middle East when they think about gold, and the Western people, let's say in Europe, and even myself, I come from Germany. So many people don't really, own gold. They rather buy shares.
Oh, hi, Clay. Well, it's a great question. It's actually a cultural question as well, I must say. Like, I'm coming from Australia, so I was never brought up to understand precious metals in any particular sense. And I believe that's much of the case of the Western world. If you look at the case of America and much of the West, we've been dumbed down towards what is money, what is actually precious metals, and why does it play a role in a monetary policy? Why do central banks own gold in that respect? And, if you go back for thousands of years, back to the ancient times of the ancient Egypt, to the Pharaoh and Joseph time, I mean, since then, gold has always been a means, and silver has been, precious metals have been a means of exchange for commodities, whether it's grains, whether it's other metals. It's always been accepted as a means of exchange and never defaulted in that sense. When you have gold in your hand, you have real wealth. There's no one else's debt assigned to that, whereas paper wealth, it's purely derived from debt. This can go to zero, and historically has gone to zero in value. This has never gone to zero. And even when you look at commodities, if you're looking at wheat, if you're looking at copper, you're looking at zinc, you're looking at rare minerals, etc. Throughout history, traders have always accepted gold and silver as a means of exchange for these commodities. And these commodities we need for life, correct? We need food, we need agricultural commodities for life. But throughout history, many of the commodity traders will only accept certain currencies. Maybe the Swiss franc, maybe the US dollar, maybe the euro. But many, depending upon where you are in the world, they may not accept your currency. And the currency that they accept today may not be accepted in the future. So the question is, throughout history, what has always been accepted by commodity traders? It's certainly been precious metals such as gold and silver, because it is real value. It's never gone to zero value, unlike paper currencies, unlike even some of the crypto tokens out there. They've gone to zero because what's their intrinsic value? It's a relatively new concept. A lot of people go in that direction, but there's no history to support it. It's theoretical. There is theoretical history to say that it has value, but it does not really have a long history of that. And maybe when times and economic circumstances are getting tough, maybe when you need to buy agricultural commodities, will the actual commodity trader accept a particular currency, a particular cryptocurrency? But he's always accepted gold and silver. And I think that's going to continue into the future. The question is going to be at just what value. So the reason between the East and the West, Claudia, is culturally the East understand gold because obviously there's a lot older history in the East compared to the Western world. And if you look at America, which is relatively new, over 200 years old as a modern country. For many decades, for 40, 50 years, it was illegal for US citizens to own gold. From 1933 to 1974, I think it was absolutely illegal for US citizens to actually own gold. So you got a few generations there which have zero education about understanding what gold is. And even when you speak to bankers today, many of them have no connection to gold because bankers are educated to promote and sell to you the belief in currency, paper currency. So there is a big divide in beliefs in that. But I can tell you right now, my educator and good friend, who was here in Dubai recently, and mentor Philip Judge, the bullion banker for 30 years. He said throughout history, rulers of empires, royalty, and the financial elite have always taken part of the paper wealth because they know the longer you hold this, the less it buys, and turned it into actually gold. Because gold has a history, it always has a value. It's always going to be a means of exchange, and it's most importantly, it's going to protect your store of value. And paper currencies and these other things don't necessarily do that, but gold's always had a history of doing that for thousands of years, not just 10 years.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And of course, you hit actually a few subjects there. One, and that is, where we get a lot of question about that all the time. That is, of course, a confiscation. Can confiscation happen again? But then you also touched a little bit on, this, especially right now, actually, Ray Dalio, he put something out. I'm going to read it out for you. Ray Dalio, the #1 hedge fund manager. I mean, he puts out some really great quote, but the recent quote he had put out was here: policymakers who are short of money will raise taxes and won't like these capital movements out of debt assets and into other storehold of wealth assets and other tax domains. So they could very well impose prohibitions against capital movements to other assets, of course, example, gold, Bitcoin, and other location. Those are things, of course, we know about the Gold Confiscation Act. Certainly we do, a lot of people don't, but of course we have spoken many times about that. But the whole theme of making it more difficult for you to actually exit, that is really what this tax, or this is really what this wealth confiscation, what this is all about. It's to making it harder and harder for you to exit, to find exit strategy. So you have on one hand side, a lot of people right now, and you see the Bitcoin price rising. You don't see yet the gold price, we hit all-time highs last year, but it should actually be very much higher. But we see, of course, capital going into those assets. But you see, I can't really go into depth into it because we are obviously here, certainly on one of the platforms, which, is certainly be controlled in one form or the other. The whole other platforms where we are streaming on, well, very, very similar. But it's all about that. So governments, they need to control the money flow. And you very much are confronted with that basically on a daily basis when, of course, dealing with clients who wish to buy gold or silver. It is not the easiest way, right?
No, correct, Lady. Well, first of all, governments always do things and can do things, and they've done it in the past, will probably do it in the future. So nothing is guaranteed regarding that. And one thing is for sure, governments are burdened with debt. I mean, governments always spend more than what they have. That's why they have a printing machine, the central banks that they actually own. But the trouble with a central bank is they keep printing while economies are not growing, is that it causes inflation. And inflation means is a theft of your wealth. It's a silent theft. Most people don't actually realize what's going on, but they just see prices increasing over time. And when you've actually increased trillions of dollars of monetary expansion, the outcome of that's going to be, the effect of that's going to be, is that your dollars, your euros, whatever currency you may have, paper currency that you have, is just going to buy less and less over time. And that's really a theft from you of true wealth. It's a transfer of wealth actually from you back to the central banking system. So confiscation can be done in many, many ways. Governments have and central banks have many tools up their sleeve. Inflation is certainly one of those. And monetary controls through the movement of gold and silver, through taxes, import duties, all these things that limit people to be able to exchange. We see it even here in Dubai now. I've known traders here, been here for decades, very highly experienced doing bullion. They're at the stage in their career thinking this is just getting too controlled, too bureaucratic. They can't do their business. The reporting and different things, and therefore the volumes and the margins in gold is very, very low when it comes to that particular aspect. So certainly the governments will control the wealth. I mean, as they do and have always done in one sense. So you've got to position yourself correctly and understand what has true value and understand what will lose value over time. And historically, paper currencies which are backed by nothing, they always lose value over time and eventually even go back to intrinsic value to zero, which has actually happened even in the Western world currencies. So gold and silver still play, and the monetary policy still play a very, very solid role, probably more so in the East than the West, because the West don't really have any gold, but it's certainly the Eastern countries like Russia, China, Turkey, these places, they're buying up gold because they understand the history of it. They have a history of it, and they know it has a real intrinsic value. It's the cornerstone of their central bank wealth in that sense. And there's an old saying that goes around, who has the gold rules. And there's no, I'm not getting into politics, but you feel there's a shift happening in the world, don't you? The West is losing its grip of power and control. They try and do it through, in one sense, they try and do it through their own dictatorship, in one sense through wars and things like that. But they're losing grip and power that they had since the Second World War, since the Bretton Woods Agreement of the 1944, which was the monetary change from the reserve currency, the British pound to the US dollar. So monetary change is happening. The world is in major shift right now. Who would think that we're living under such circumstances of freedom of travel, freedom of speech, everything is controlled, and monetary supply is very much part of that in one sense. So to me personally, even to the next generation, it's very important that you understand what is real lasting wealth versus something that may have a little bit of hype. It doesn't mean you cannot make money out of it, but is it going to be there a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now? Will it still have that value that you pay for it as of today? Gold and silver has always been the case. But just to finish on that note, I'm not telling people they should be putting everything to gold and silver. My mentor and coach, Philip Judge, always said maybe only 5% of your paper wealth should be put into gold and silver. Many of the experts maybe say maybe 10% today. But even so, you need to have something of real tangible wealth. Now, what do you do with the other 90%? Well, much of it goes to people's living expenses, and you can buy other assets into businesses and things like that. But saving and paper is certainly not a way to build lasting wealth. It just slips through your fingers through the effects of inflation, which is going to increase in the coming years, considering the amount of government printing that's going on, central bank printing that's going on around the world.
Yes, definitely, Bill. But the other aspect, of course, and again, we touched a little bit on it, and that is when a lot of people who are asking, well, this confiscation, well, can they again impose a law to confiscate? Well, of course, they can do everything, as you said. They have a lot of things up their sleeves. But how will they do that? And so some people, they think, oh, wow, they're going to raid my house, or they're going to whatever, go in there and come in there. No. They can do that, of course, through lots of different ways, and making it more difficult for you to actually cash out, to actually, liquidate even precious metals, gold, silver, liquidate Bitcoin. So this is where obviously they want to introduce their CBDC money, so their central bank digital currency, which obviously China is already very well on the way. Of course, the many other governments as well as the United States. So, and I see it really, again, as you spoke about it, it's all about control. Who has the control? Of course, there was an old saying by Rothschild, who owns the gold, well, has the power. And so basically, that's all about this control. It's the same, of course. Now we don't want to go into that vaccine issue, but it's the same deal. In order to travel, probably we will see global travel passports. Well, this is the same with, of course, the CBDC money, the central bank digital currency money, which basically is digital, payments for digital currency issued by a country. So right now we have, of course, here in the UAE, I think the highest bills are 1,000 dirham. In the US, we have like $100 bills. In Germany, I think we have now only 200 euro bills. We had 500, we had 1,000 before. But if we don't have them anymore, yet you go out and you have a dinner, you pay like €100, $100 easily for 2 people anywhere, and you don't really have any extras or luxuries with that. So what is really happening? There's a shift happening. And this shift is again about control. Where I'm going with that is to that, of course, question which people are having on taxation, on, of course, confiscation. Well, how do they confiscate? And you always have this powerful, of course, on your PowerPoint presentation, it's powerful wording there by John Maynard Keynes about, of course, the confiscation. And so how governments are really doing that. And see, the reason you need, and I believe, Bill, we need to have some of our money. Of course, you can have cryptocurrencies, of course, other assets and so on, but in precious metals, in gold and silver, because of that reason that, you see, when you own a cryptocurrency, when you own Bitcoin, when you own your dirham, when you own your this money, well, I see it like, okay, so it needs to be a digital transaction happening. That means somehow there is a ledger, there is a node, there is something you can trace back, correct? So that is very much online, very much digital. What happens if you own physical gold? That's as much analog as you really can think of. It's physical there, it's analog, it's not digital. A very, very big difference. This is how I see. I want to have something which is outside of that, outside of the banking system. Am I right or not? I hope I am.
Well, Claudia, you made a couple of points at the beginning, actually, and that is that gold does not earn you a yield, but actually the paper currency I have in the Swiss francs or US dollars I have in my hands here, that doesn't earn me any yield either. It's in my hand. Now, if I put it in the bank, I might get some yield, or put it to work, I might get some yield, but just holding onto my cash here and holding onto my gold here, this earns me no yield. This earns me no yield, correct? And I could do a cash transaction with the person here, if they accept these different currencies, or I could do a cash transaction in one sense of gold. They accept this as a certain value, that exchange goods and services. The difference has been that this is non-legal tender. In one sense, it's a private transaction between me and the other party. So it's not digital. Okay, so in one sense, for cross-border transactions, it might be limited and things. It's not so easy. Whereas paper currency, of course, is this is a 1 ounce. This is a value of about $1,800 US dollars right now, $1,840 US dollars right now. So if I wanted to buy something smaller, it's difficult to transact. But certainly, the point you're making, I think, is that once we go digital, to me, the governments are going to know everything. They're going to know what you spend, how much you spend, who you're spending it with, they know everything about you. And if it's digital, it means they can also turn it off. In one respect, it's a restriction of freedom. And they can determine that they like me, that I'm traveling, I'm a gold dealer, and maybe they don't like that. And banks have shut my accounts. Banks, even now, if I go back to Switzerland, I can go back probably 8-9 years, shut my accounts. They gave me 30 days notice to change their banks. And I'm talking big name banks too, because I was in the precious metal business. They didn't like that I was in this business selling precious metals to people in different countries. They did not like that. They closed my account. They gave me 30 days notice to actually do that. That's controlling, okay? And we see these things happening today around the world. So if you really want to be free, and to me, health and freedom is the most important things. Your monetary, the way that you think about money and your assets plays a significant role on that. And I do not want to ever be in a position, because who knows what's going to happen in the world. I mean, look what's happened in the last 12 months. So I do not want to have a government that has digital control over me and what I can listen to, what I can actually speak, and also what currencies and wealth transfers that I actually can do. I mean, if I do lots of transfers around the world, and from different banks here from Dubai and vice versa from Switzerland, and even from Africa. even from your own private account these days, sending a small amount, let's say $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, the questions that they ask you, the documentations that's required, and I say to them, it's from my account. My account. They block the transfers. That is the reality. Now, maybe domestically you don't experience that, but I experience this and experienced it quite often. So they certainly have the control, and I see people's transactions being held up. If they've got higher payouts going there, they're definitely held up. And to control the gold and control real wealth flow, they could just say, well, this is being connected to maybe money laundering, it's being connected to maybe drug cartels, armed dealers. Governments always find, or they create fear so the public gets sucked into it, and they'll create fear to put these draconian laws upon us to restrict us even further, even though most of it's nonsense. I mean, we primarily live today under laws because of 0.001% of the world population may be crooks or this or that, but we have to live by these so-called laws. And if you look at, to be quite honest, if you to Google, let's say bank fines or bank connections to cartels, what banks have done laundering the cartels' money, it's not the citizens who are the biggest crooks, to be quite honest. It's some of these biggest institutions are the biggest crooks, but we're the ones that get punished for it through these particular laws. I mean, the money that we're dealing with here is very superficial compared to these big players. But coming back to the point, the point is where the average person wants to improve the quality of life and protect and preserve their wealth, don't they? That's really what we're all about. We exchange our labor. We work, we exchange our labor, we're getting paid in a currency. The truth of the matter is, like you said, Claudia, the currency that we're getting paid in is losing buying value. Between now and the next 10 years, whatever I have in my hand here, I've got Swiss francs, I've got dirhams, I've got US dollars, I've got euros. Between now and the next 10 years, this paper currency is going to lose probably 50% of its current purchasing power. That means $100 today, what I can buy $100 or 100 francs worth of goods and services today. In 10 years from now, I'm going to need to have $200 to buy the same amount of goods and services. And this is where precious metals, gold and silver in particularly, has been wealth preservation. In 1971 in the United States, the average home price, the median average home price was, I think, $25,000 US. And I could actually buy a house, the median average house, the equivalent to $25,000 back then at $35 an ounce, was just over 700 ounces of gold. Very, very, very simple. Now today, the average price medium home in the US is probably $280,000. From $25,000 to $280,000 is the medium average price home. But instead of having you have 760 ounces of gold to buy that same home at $1,800 per ounce, I would need maybe only 150 to 200 of these to get the same asset or value a medium standard home in the US. So in one sense, I trade my money for paper. I trade my time for paper. Over time, it's losing value. So goods and services are costing more. So it's enslaving me. And the other side, this is increasing my purchasing power. And in one respect, we're seeing that with Bitcoin as well. We're seeing that goods and services have become a lot cheaper with Bitcoin. Okay, you're buying commodities and food items and goods and services with Bitcoin a year ago is certainly much cheaper than today with Bitcoin. Whereas a paper currency is costing more, correct? So is it sustainable? No, I don't know. But I'm just saying it's an interesting discussion. It's good to think about this. And the point is, I think it's really important that we understand the difference between currencies and assets of real value, such as gold and silver, and particularly maybe Bitcoin. I don't know. Many people argue for it. Many people argue against it. I don't know. One thing's for sure, this will never go to zero. And this could always be exchanged for, let's say, for a truckload of wheat. But will the farmer sell his wheat for you for Bitcoin? I don't know. So there's many points for it, to support it, and to not support it. What I love about Bitcoin, we're getting on the cryptocurrency now, because we're talking about money. In many jurisdictions, Bitcoin is actually a commodity. So you have this thing you can't touch, you can't see, as a commodity, trading on the exchange alongside precious metals, gold and silver, alongside wheat.
We're losing you a little bit. You're a little bit. Maybe it's your connection in the internet. You maybe need to reconnect. We're losing you a little bit there.
Well, do you want me to start again? I don't know, Claudia.
No, it's fine. We just lost you a little bit. Let me just throw something in there regarding that, because you touched on a good subject, of course, there with Bitcoin. So the point of view I'm always, of course, as a gold buyer, as a silver buyer, do is again, when we talk about wealth preservation, we talk about not about wealth building, we talk about preservation. And then I believe gold and silver is very key, very instrumental, because again, gold, as you well said, never can go back to zero. Can Bitcoin go? Absolutely. Can any paper currency go? Absolutely. Gold can never. So then I talk about freedom. Gold, and again, because it is so analog, it's not. It's in that sense. If you have it, if you own it, it's not. They can't trace you really. And so while, of course, Bitcoin, yes, it is encrypted. Of course, cryptocurrency is encrypted, but still, it will be eventually get so sophisticated. There will be newer cryptocurrencies who will be more difficult to trace, but I believe that's already happening in different cases that they could trace back, of course, those people with Bitcoin. So there's really an argue about it. It's going from analog to actually being totally digital, being controlled. The same, like, of course, it's gonna be happening with the digital passports and the vaccination and all that stuff. It's all about that control. While, of course, and again, this is why I'm so much about always saying you have to own just a little bit gold and silver. In fact, if you're on the call today, in this little discussion round we are having here, you are one of, the majority of people. So you are one of the very, very, very minority who actually is already thinking outside the box, is already thinking different. See, most people, they will say, oh, why do I need gold? I buy Tesla shares. But see, you also are very much of a contrarian. You always say, well, when everybody goes into that direction, let me do something totally opposite. But on the other hand side, of course, it's always good. Your trend is your friend. Again, coming back to that part of yours, Bill, I think your connection is now better. What do you actually do? What to do?
Well, it's simple, Claudia, actually. It's not rocket science. If you come to realize, if you have a clear understanding that the paper currencies that you actually have is going to buy less over time, you've got to start thinking outside the box. Why would you want to save on that? Now, you need to have it because you need to be liquid, of course. You need to be able to buy your goods and services and food items and pay your rent or mortgage using the currency of the jurisdiction where you are. But that's not building wealth. So what do? It's very simple. You get on the gold and silver savings plan, just like you, Claudia, since we've now been in operation for 13 years, and you've been involved with us since that time. Every month, I know that you take a bit of your paper wealth, bit of your income, or your commissions, and you turn it directly back into precious metals, something of real tangible value. So you'd ask the question, what benefit has that given you the last 10 years? And I would tell you that in 10 years, your euro has lost 50% of its purchasing power. No question about that, okay? But at the same time, your wealth preservation, in fact, you're ahead of the game because you've been saving, converting the paper into precious metals. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're putting $50 a month or $25 a month into a bit of gold and silver savings, or whether it's $500 or euros per month into gold and silver savings. It's your price averaging it month after month after month. So you're building up an asset base of real tangible value. The other thing is it's highly liquid. So in the case that you ever needed to sell back, emergency in your life, because gold is a bit like an insurance policy, you can just log into your back office of Utopian Global, and you can say, I want to sell 1 ounce of gold or 100 ounces or 1,000 ounces of silver. You type it in the back office. It'll go to the market, whatever the Argos Heraeus refinery or London Bullion Market accredited refinery price is. Whatever that price is, that's the price that you'll actually get. So it's highly liquid. And at the same time, let's push your e-wallet, and within 24, 48 hours, that money is back in your account. It can be your Bitcoin wallet or it could be your bank account. So you have total liquidity. But the key is over the last 10 years, you've built wealth. If you had just kept your savings in paper money, the inflationary effect, you would have lost half of your purchasing power or very close to that over the last 10 years. But instead, you haven't done that. You've taken a part of that paper wealth, may only be 10% or 5%, and you've actually built a layer of wealth backed by real assets such as gold and silver. And this is why I'm not going to talk too much about it on this particular call, but we had meetings, as you know, today, Claudia, in our boardroom about the assets that we've got coming out later on in this particular, I would say, May. We wanted to be out a lot earlier. I mean, I was meant to go to Africa last Sunday. In fact, sorry, 2 Sundays ago, I was meant to go to Africa because we have a company set up there to do a joint venture in a mineralization project. And then Sunday just gone, I was meant to fly to Zurich, and that's been stopped. I was meant to fly tomorrow, but I've had to cancel that because of COVID things. So much of business has been halted because of what's going on in the world. And just on that COVID situation, I don't really like to talk about too much. But one thing it's actually done, it's stripped people of their savings. For whatever savings the middle class or people had around the world, one thing that COVID has done for many, many people, whatever savings that they've had, is diminish them significantly. It's stripped wealth from the people. This what's been going on in the last 12 or 18 months. Is it intentional? Is it not intentional? That's up to each person's belief. I have my own opinion on that, but it's the fact that the true matter is it's actually happening, isn't it? And I mean, life here is pretty normal in Dubai. They call it a high risk area. Doesn't seem risky to me, I must say, but they brand it as a high risk area. But this is what's happening. The truth of the matter is the world is under very, very difficult times right now. People's wealth has been stripped from them. So ownership of real assets that's highly liquid is truly important. And this is what we're doing coming out, I would say, our target's May to bring out a couple of different assets. Fantastic assets are going to give you good returns on a monthly basis, because the idea is you need to get your paper wealth into real assets, and those assets need to be able to give you leveraged income back. You need to be able to increase your income, multiple streams of income, which have always been taught, Claudia, and this is what we're going to be bringing to the table. So this is our absolute key focus now. The challenge is that because we can't travel, I can't sign up on some different deals. You've got to go and visit mines, you've got to go and visit factories. Some of these different places that we're doing these joint ventures with is very exciting, but they're slower, but they will be coming out soon, and I can assure you they're exciting for a number of reasons. One is that they have real asset value. There's a high demand for it, and the investment's going to be callable, which means if you put 100 francs in it, or you put 5,000 francs in it, or you put 50,000 francs in it, or sorry, euros I'm talking now, euros into or US dollars. If you put money into that and you want 100% of your principal back, you'll be able to get 100% of your principal back. Okay, we're not locking people in. We realize as a company, and our board realizes, the key moving forward to the future is give people flexibility and liquidity. So you'll be able to commit some value towards real assets of real value. You get earning on those real assets, but at any particular time, with 30 days notice, or depending on the payout cycle of that particular investment, you'll be able to get 100% of your investment money back, your capital back. And here I am as the CEO of the company telling you that. So this is where we believe the future is. So we're partnered up with some very, very big players that love what we're doing, and this is what's going to be coming to the marketplace in the future, Claudia, because in today's world, people need to have ownership of, they need to understand what money is, what real money is. They need to have ownership of real assets of real value, and they need to be able to generate another source of income. And lastly, it needs to be, if they want to liquidate their position or liquidate their investment they have in a particular asset, they can do it very quick and feel the confidence they're going to get their money back. That's where we're heading, and this is exactly what we're working on right now, which is very exciting. I'm excited about it.
Yes, that is very, very exciting, Bill. And with that exciting news, we're going to, of course, end this call here. We talked we talked a lot on this subject. I am very much looking forward to have everything launched. Of course, we could take a little bit longer time. But again, as you did say, due to, of course, the different restrictions which are happening to close some of the deals. But you see here behind my board, without giving too much, but we have quite a few things and projects in the closing right now, which we can bring to, of course, you. So it's going to be exciting. very exciting moving forward, and I hope that I can update you every week or every 2 weeks until, of course, we can finally let the cat out of the bag, or how do they say? I believe that's the way they say it, don't they? Well, with that, you guys, thank you so much for listening. Share this video with your friends, with your loved ones. And again, if you are on this call today, you are one of the outsiders, meaning like insiders and outsiders at the same time. You're one of the very few that actually is already thinking outside the box. So I have to congratulate you for that, because most people, unfortunately, they don't think outside the box. So yes, as Mohammed, as Sahir actually there says, great things come to those who are patient. Absolutely very wise and very well said for you. Thanks all your listeners on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course we will reply to all those questions and comments you having on there. Harold, great call yesterday as well. We're going to have one, I believe, next Monday with your group as well. And looking forward to build this around the world. Absolutely. That is a global business, which you literally can build anywhere in the world. So Bill, thank you so much for giving us the time as well. And again, thank you all you guys from listening and plugging in from all around the world. Have a good day. Stay safe. Stay positive, and stay open to learn new things. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Claudia. As I always finish up with, if you're not sowing seeds of prosperity, you'll have nothing to harvest. And the last thing is, actually, I want to say hi to Zahir. I remember you showed me a photo. Actually, you showed the photo to Mr. Shah the other day, Claudia, holding Zahir's little baby boy. And what a beautiful boy that you have, Zahir. I must say his eyes are amazing, actually. It was a beautiful photograph. So it's only just last week, was it, Claudia? You showed that photo to Mr. Shah. Yeah, it was really nice, actually. Anyway, good to hear from everyone. Stay safe and well, and we look forward to our next call. Thank you.
Inshallah.